If you're thinking about making a move to Branson, it probably seems like a dream. You got the lakes, the views, the slower paced lifestyle. But before you pack up and move, there are a few things that people don't realize until after they've gotten here. Today, I'm breaking down the real pros and cons of living in Branson so you can decide if it's the right fit for you. Stick around. Welcome back, you guys. I'm Jason. I help people relocate to Branson, buy lake homes, and invest in short-term rentals here. And look, if you're looking to make a move to Branson, I've put together an all-new Branson relocation guide for 2026. It's packed with all kinds of great information. You'll definitely want to check that out in the link down in the description below. And if you want to talk through your specific situation one-on-one, you can always book a Zoom on my calendar as well. By the way, drop a comment down below on where you're from. I'm always just curious on how far people are looking to make the move. All right, so let's just get right into it. The first pro of moving and living here in Branson is the views. I mean, I totally fell in love with Branson the minute that I got here. So I am from Dallas, Fort Worth originally. I moved here 21 years ago in 2005. And you could imagine like someone like me who's very used to all of the pavement and the highways and the just major developments everywhere. There's very little green in the area where I grew up, a suburb of Dallas. And so when I came up through Arkansas into Branson and just really was blown away by all of the I mean, I thought they were mountains because, I've never really seen mountains before until I got to Colorado. And then I was like, oh, those are mountains. So these are very big hills out here. I mean, just check this out. I mean, you've got Table Rock Lake, you've got Lake Taney, Como, of course, and all the rolling hills and the trees everywhere. I mean, it doesn't feel flat or industrial at all. It feels like you're living somewhere people vacation. And that's a big deal for a lot of buyers, especially if you're coming from more of a larger populated area like St. Louis, Kansas City, Tulsa, wherever. And the other things, you can boat, you can fish, you can golf. There's so much to do, and you're never more than like 10 to 15 minutes away from the lake. Now, that beauty does come with a trade-off, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right, number two, I think a lot of people are very surprised at the cost of living here in Branson compared to many other larger cities in the nation. When you stack Branson up against most major metros, living here is noticeably more affordable. Overall, cost of living indexes show, Branson sits well below the national average, meaning your everyday expenses are generally lower than in higher cost cities like Denver, Chicago, and Dallas. Housing costs alone tend to be lower here. In Branson, a typical home value is often below the national median, and rents here have historically trended below the US average, which means your monthly expenses can go further without having to sacrifice space or view. That's a huge reason why people are considering Branson as a relocation option for them. You're not just getting the lifestyle, you're also getting a break on the costs so you can live more comfortably and stretch your budget out further. But affordability is only one part of the picture, and there are some trade-offs that most people don't think about until they live here. All right, number three pro, and this is one of my favorites, is the slower paced lifestyle. I really did not realize how stressed out I was, like in the car all the time doing my daily in, Dallas, Fort Worth. I would put 150 miles on my car every day and never think twice about it because you're always on freeways having to go from this suburb over to this suburb. It's just you're 75 miles an hour on a highway all the time. And you get to Branson and everything just really slows down. Nobody's in a hurry to get anywhere. And so that takes some adjusting, but after a while, I mean, it's so good on your on your health, on your peace and your happiness. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, like during the peak season, if you're on the strip, you're going to run into traffic, no doubt. But you learn all the back roads, and you're able to, it took me probably a few months to really kind of get around town enough where I didn't have to, worry about getting lost in the tourist shuffle, of traffic. And so, that's one thing that you will come to appreciate. There's multiple different side roads that you can get in and around Branson very easily. And you just really don't have to worry about always having to be stressed out about how to get from here to there, because it's usually, seriously, you can get anywhere around Branson within 30 minutes. It's definitely a smaller town feel, but it's got enough going on that you don't feel isolated. I've had buyers move here from out of state where they've told me a quick trip meant like a 45-minute drive. And, here that would probably mean like 10 minutes. So there you go. Hey, if you're coming from another bigger city, what's your average commute right now? I'm just curious. Let me know down in the comments below. And for a lot of people, this ties directly into our next pro, which is 55 and up and downsizer appeal. Another reason why Branson really stands out, especially for 55 and up and downsizers, is how well the area fits this lifestyle. A lot of people that I talk to aren't necessarily retiring, they're just simplifying. They want, less maintenance, less stress, and just honestly more time to just enjoy where they live. And Branson makes that pretty easy. You got lake access, golf, the shows, of course, restaurants, the walking trails, but you're not dealing with the big city chaos. I've had buyers tell me that they're trading yard work and long commutes for mornings on the lake, afternoon golf rounds, or, dinner with friends that are just 5 minutes from home. There's also a lot of low maintenance communities around here, patio homes, condos, and lake homes that will make downsizing feel more like an upgrade rather than a downgrade. Now, it's not a huge metropolitan retirement area with, medical facilities on every single corner, so expectations do matter. Honestly, that's probably more like Springfield area, just 30 minutes north. But for the right person, the lifestyle here really does fit. If you're thinking about downsizing, are you looking to simplify, or are you looking to upgrade your lifestyle? All right, now here's where Branson is a little bit different than most small towns. We get millions of people, tens of millions of people that come every single year for Table Rock Lake, the shows, of course, the golf, all of the attractions that are going on. There's a ton to do. A Silver Dollar City, yes, of course. I mean, those are the main drivers that draw in a bunch of people. So you have high demand for people coming here, and they need places to stay. So unlike a lot of other smaller areas, there is a legit demand for short-term rental opportunity here. And that's why a lot of people aren't just moving here, they're deciding to invest here in Branson. Yeah, I've worked with buyers that will use a property part-time and then they'll rent it out the rest of the time. And that hybrid lifestyle where you can enjoy the lake and also generate some income when you're not there is something that you don't get in a lot of other markets. And there are different entry points. Some people like to get started with condos, others, cabins or a lake house. It really just depends on your risk tolerance and your goals. Now, that doesn't mean that every single property is going to be able to work as a short-term rental, okay? You have to be able to understand zoning, HOA rules, and you have to have realistic income expectations. It's not really just buy anything anywhere and it works. But for the right buyer, Branson isn't just a place to live, it can also be a great place to generate income. And that combination is pretty rare. Now, that tourism economy has a trade-off. So let's go ahead and talk about the cons, all right? All right, so con number one is the seasonal swings here in Branson. You'll definitely feel this when you decide to move here full time. The traffic gets heavier during the peak season, of course. So like I mentioned before, you definitely want to stay off of the strip as much as possible during the peak season. Spring break, there's a little pop during spring break, and then like I said, Memorial Day through Labor Day, it is going to be solid busy, and then pretty much every weekend on Branson West side, like the Branson strip on the west side of town going towards Silver Dollar City is going to be piled up on Saturdays pretty much every weekend of people trying to get in over there. It's, one lane in and one lane out. Um, but usually that dies down during the morning, right before lunchtime. Most everybody's in the park, at least on that end of town. I used to live in Stonebridge out in Branson West, so getting into town was never really a big deal. It was trying to go into town really quick and then go back to my house in Branson West, having to fight all of the Silver Dollar City traffic. But once you become aware of when those cycles are happening, you just plan your trips around all of that. And like I said, you learn the back roads and you learn when it's okay to be able to cut down the strip during, like actually like right now during January and February, there's no, um, there's no, you could probably get down from one end of the strip all the way down to downtown. I'd say in probably 10, 12 minutes. There's not really a whole lot going on during January and February, and so you can get a ton of shopping, restaurants. You'll definitely feel that whenever you're trying to eat out during the peak season. Just a lot of things that you're going to notice as you start getting inundated into our town is that you're kind of just aware of what's happening, the events, um, oh gosh, what am I trying to think of? Like the Thunder Ridge Nature Arena now is pulling in huge um, named acts that are playing down at the outdoor amphitheater out there. And that has caused a huge traffic even on Highway 65 going down south of Branson into Hollister. So you definitely want to know, like, when a big huge act that's going to be pulling in a tremendous amount of people is coming in, so you can plan accordingly. So if you're someone who wants total quiet year round, that may be something you want to keep in mind. You might want to look at one of the outlying areas outside of Branson, because I'll be honest, like most people who live and work in Branson, they don't actually live in Branson proper. They live in the other areas that are outside of Branson. Con number two, and I felt this from the bottom of my soul when I moved here from Dallas Fort Worth, is you're very limited on big city amenities. If you're coming from a major metro area to Branson, just know that it's a lot of people are very surprised at how few amenities that you have. And I'm talking like just the shopping choices that you have, the entertainment choices, because there are things that are entertainment for tourists, but as you become a regular local here, you're not going honestly to do shows all the time. In fact, I'm an ex Branson performer. That's why I moved to Branson. I didn't really go to a lot of shows, personally, except for people that maybe I knew in the shows. Um, but a lot of people think that when you live here that you're going to be going to shows all the time, and maybe maybe you do, but for most people you're very limited on the shopping one, major medical, which we'll get into here in just a minute as another con. And just, I mean, like I was so used to honestly having, outlet malls with like your choice of every type of restaurant and shopping of any kind within, a 5 minute drive of me. That's how I grew up, and so it was very much like, I think a lot of the shops and the things are geared towards the tourist. There's very unique, the Tanger Outlet Mall provides a bit of that, and now definitely the Branson Landing downtown has a lot of great restaurant and shopping options. But for most people that are coming from those major metro areas, you're probably going to be taking a lot of trips to Springfield to do like the Battlefield Mall and have more eclectic food choices, if you will. That's one thing that I was really bummed, is that there's not a lot of great Mexican food restaurants in Branson. And I'm a big, I'm from Texas originally, so that was something that I really missed, having several different Mexican food options, good Mexican food options in Branson. So to keep that in mind. One other thing is we don't really have a major airport here in Branson. There's the small Branson Airport, and it is very small. It has very limited, connections. There's almost everything I think at the Branson Airport is gonna have a layover, of some kind. There's not really a lot of direct flight options for you in Branson, and those terminals, those carriers, they switch all the time. It's really frustrating. I flew my son down many times on smaller jets from Love Field in Dallas, when Southwest was carrying out there. And that was kind of nice. But for the most part, you're going to be flying from Springfield, which is about a 50, 5 minute, almost an hour drive from Branson if you need to get direct flights anywhere in the United States. Oh, last thing I was thinking that I totally forgot to mention is that there's just also not a lot of big corporate job market opportunities here in Branson. I mean, really, it's hospitality, food service, retail, um, and that's, I mean, really a Silver Dollar City, of course, which is a seasonal job area. So that's kind of a bummer. All right, healthcare is something that comes up quite a bit, and that is con number 3. We do have good hospitals and providers here. We're just not a major medical hub like, Kansas City or St. Louis. But there are, people who have special needs that might need specialists that, are tending to them. And you're probably going to find that more so in Springfield at, there's plenty of, I know, cancer facilities up that way. But if you have other needs, most people choose to maybe travel to either St. Louis or Kansas City for their medical specialists. All right, number 4 con is the hills and the terrains here in Branson. I was not anticipating the amount of elevations, and honestly, when I moved here from Texas, everything's flat. Everything's straight north, south, east, west, and here it's just up, down, up and around every which way. It's 2-lane roads that oftentimes one lane going this way, one lane going this way, and so there's not a lot of places to pass. It's getting better over the last 20 something years. They've really tried to widen some of the roads where they can. But these are old shepherd paths that were eventually taken into become roads over time. And so when you're looking at Branson on a map and you're trying to get from the east side of town to the west side of town, sometimes it just doesn't make a lot of sense why you would want to go up and around and down this way just to get from here to here from this on the strip. But it is actually faster, but it is, a lot of times your brakes are going to need to be changed more often out here just because you're constantly having to fight being going downhill, especially if you're going up and down through Springfield. The Highway 65 is very hilly. As you going up into Christian and Greene County, not so much, right? But anywhere in Stone and Taney County, pretty much everything is on a hill. Your driveways can be very steep. The roads that go off of the main road to your neighborhood can be very steep. So that is definitely, and the walkways from your driveway to your house are typically built on an elevation. Walk-in properties are highly desirable here for that reason. So if you got bad knees, or you have trouble getting around, or wanting to do work in your yard and you're kind of on an incline, that is definitely something that you want to take into consideration, and especially during the winter time. And because of the rain and stuff, which we'll talk about here in a minute, those can also be factors when you're talking about steep driveways. I've had buyers, fall in love with the view, and then they realize that the driveway was a little more exciting than they had expected. But one that literally told me that they had to gun it out of their garage to get up to the road, reversing out, and there was really no way to turn around. They parked in the garage, and they were having to like just completely gun it to get up the hill and get out to the road. So some people love the topography, and others would really find it very surprising to navigate. My parents, when they first had come to visit me when I first moved to Branson, I remember seeing their faces whenever they got out of the car for the first time, and just like kind of a little car sick and just feeling a little overwhelmed again, because they were fresh from Texas, and we're very used to those straight flat roads, and you're just kind of just navigating through Branson can be almost like a roller coaster ride in and of itself. So just prepare yourself. You'll get used to it eventually, I promise. Some people love that topography, and others might choose something easier to navigate. All right, con number 5, that's the weather. That's might be for some people that would see Branson as a place, the perfect place, depending on if you're extremely far north or if you're more from the further south, like in Texas. Humidity back home where I'm from is, a lot worse than what it is here. It's very humid here during the summer. The summers can get up to 100 degrees um, for maybe a week or two. I'm used to Texas summers where it's like, 105 before the heat index for 40 plus days straight, melt your face off. It's not like that here. But we do get a lot of storms. Rain during May, especially, is a thing. A lot of the storm systems that come through Oklahoma will kind of hit Table Rock Lake, and you will see that the lake area, kind of the hills and everything, are kind of a natural deterrent. A lot of times it seems like the weather will kind of either go up north of us to the Springfield area, or down south into northwest Arkansas a lot of times. But tornadoes and pretty bad storms are semi regular thing. I haven't really. There's one tornado in 2012, a big one that hit Branson. But hail and wind, your roofs are really going to take a beating. I don't think anybody really ever sees a 30-year shingle actually see the lifespan of 30 years. The siding takes a beating. So especially if you're waterfront, the humidity is going to impact your exteriors, of course. Snow. So we do get some snow, and it's typically around this time, January, February, not so much November and December. In years past, we might have had one little snow around Christmas time or like Thanksgiving. We had a little pop actually this last year, and Thanksgiving is small, light. But for the main thing is ice, because it's so hilly. Even the little bit of ice will really cause havoc around the area. But that usually, we haven't had like a really bad ice storm in quite some time, and that usually happens up further north in like the Springfield area up there. It gets way worse on the I-44 corridor leading up into Jefferson City and St. Louis. But around here, a little bit of snow and maybe some ice for like, it might impact us for like a week or two in the winter. But that's, about it. So, I mean, for some people, you might see that as a pro instead of a con. So let me know down in the comments if you guys get a ton of snow, or if you've been to Branson when it's been really snowy and icy, if you think that that's a con. All right, so those are the main trade-offs, and whether they matter to you really depends on, I guess, what you're looking for. All right, so let me tell you who Branson is actually perfect for. Branson is going to be great for people who are looking for a slower lifestyle. And I don't mean slower like in a boring way. I just mean slower in a way that's going to let you get your time back. It's going to be ideal for 55 and up buyers or downsizers that are looking for less maintenance and more lifestyle. It's going to be great for people who are remote workers who don't need to go a commute into a city every single day. It's great for lake lovers, anybody who wants to boat, fish, hike, or golf. Enjoying the place where you live is going to be the perfect setting for you here on Table Rock. And it's a strong market for buyers who are looking for short-term rental opportunities and tourism-driven income. Now, let's talk about who Branson is not going to be for. I would say if you are somebody who thrives on like big city energy, constant nightlife, major, concerts on the weekends, corporate climbing, this might feel small. If you need a massive job market with industry options, this probably isn't going to be the place. And if you want completely flat terrain with zero elevation, the Ozarks is definitely not going to be where you were going to find that. And if you're expecting everything to feel like a major metro, that's just not what Branson is. Branson can be incredible for the right person, but it's all about the right fit. And if you understand both the pros and the cons, you can make a really smart decision. If you're seriously considering a move to Branson, make sure you grab my free Branson Relocation Guide down below. It's going to answer a lot of your questions. And if you have some other questions you want to pick my brain about and want to book a one-on-one, you can jump on my Calendly. Links down in the description below. All right, thanks for watching, you guys. I'm Jason with Great Branson Homes. Follow for the local truth and not the hype.